Watch this. It's Friday. You made it through the week. So glad you're with us here. Ahead for you on the 208. A controversial topic across Idaho. Who has the largest bass record? 75 years later, the lady with the legacy stays a legend, and there's a legend to tell about it. Still looking for plans this weekend? We've got a pretty space-tacular one for you. The universe might be getting bigger. Tonight in Boise, a Nobel Prize winner can tell you why. And it's not easy to do if you remember the old camel's back play structure, which is the landscape for the latest Boise OG board game. The 208 starts right now. If you are still looking for an indoor activity to do tonight, you are in luck, and we have this out-of-this-world suggestion for you. Dr. Alex Filipenko will be giving a special talk at Boise State tonight, and if you haven't heard of him, he is a world-renowned researcher in astronomy, more specifically cosmology, which is a subset of astrophysics, obviously, and it deals with the structure and evolution of the universe as a whole. Not a single galaxy, not a few galaxies, the whole universe. And Dr. Filipenko is working on research that shows the universe, it's getting bigger.
You know, space is expanding, not here on Earth, not in our bodies, but in between very distantly separated galaxies. But if we take separations between galaxies of 10 million or more light years, it turns out space itself is expanding. The universe is getting bigger. It's a really bizarre idea.
There's a newer development with this research. Dr. Filipenko says that researchers' original expectation was that the expansion would be slowing down, but they have found the opposite.
By looking at very great distances, we're looking back into the past because it takes light time to travel from there to here. So if we can look at very great distances, we can see how quickly the universe used to be expanding and compare that with the current expansion rate. What both teams found, to their great astonishment, was that the expansion is not slowing down, but rather speeding up.
Yeah, sound impressive? Well, Dr. Filipenko's work is also nominated for a Nobel Prize for a second time. And tonight, he will be talking about a new surprise in his research. His talk is at 7:30 on the Boise State campus tonight. The physics department, they host a First Friday astronomy night once a month. And if you missed any of those details, we have them online for you, ktvb.com.
This is why it's called the Forgotten War. Many people at the time didn't understand the conflict. Many of the soldier recollections in archives across the nation, the soldiers themselves and Marines and sailors and airmen, they came back and they said, nobody even really noticed, right? There were no parades, there were no confrontations. It was just they were expected to just move right back into civilian society without a whole lot of support, to be honest.
Hearing stories from veterans of the Korean War can be rare these days for a collection of reasons. Idaho's Warhawk Air Museum in Nampa has worked to record oral histories with the men who served, snippets into history lived.
He rolled upside down, and of course he was still on fire, and he just hit the ground and splattered all over everywhere. And I was so, I guess shaken is not the word. I was just, I lost all my, the rest of the flight.
In the mountains, it was really cold. They said it was 15 below the first night, 30 below the second night, and went to 40 below. Whether it did or not, I know it was cold. Did you know I learned something? My body, most of our bodies, you'll get acclimated to the weather in about a month. When you realize you're not in mom's kitchen, when you realize this is the way it is, you better make the best of it. And my guys were very good at doing that.
That time of life for me was probably the best in gaining the knowledge of other people and how we associate with other people. Yeah. Entire life lesson.
This Saturday, KTVB, right here on 7, we will help present the 2023 Veterans Parade in downtown Boise. And the theme this year, as you might have just inferred, honoring veterans of the Korean conflict, the Korean War. It's been 70 years this year since the technical ceasefire in the Korean War, but it still remains an active conflict until this day between North and South. But you can join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the Veterans Parade live right here on KTVB. There's the parade route on your screen, and we have a great lineup and team ready to talk about the significance of the Korean War and the legacy of Veterans Day right here in the Treasure Valley. Dr. Lisa Brady, who you actually just heard from a few moments ago, she's going to join us with expert insight during the parade, and she will host the telecast with Brian Holmes and Morgan Romero. I'll be on the parade route bringing you stories from the participants in the parade, and the parade is right after Bronco Roundup Game Day show, so a big morning on KTVB tomorrow, a perfect Saturday a.m. to stay cozy inside and enjoy the best from our community. So what else is going on in the 208? Well, a mayor was arrested. Also, you can gain a book and gain some sleep. We got the 411. Here's Sophia Bliss.
This is not the notoriety our sweet little town needs brought upon us.
The mayor of New Plymouth, Rick York, is in jail. He's charged with shooting his son after an argument last night. His son is okay, but it's not looking great for the mayor. The judge set a $75,000 bond and said York can't talk to his son. Mayor York has a status conference set for November 13th. It's the weekend. Want to curl up by the fire with a new book? Head over to Nampa Friends of the Library's annual Christmas book sale tomorrow at the Nampa Public Library. From 10 to 4, you can pick out used books, DVDs, and puzzles. Instead of a book, why not watch the Steelheads take on the Wichita Thunder? You can either go to the game at Idaho Central Arena or watch it at 7 o'clock on Idaho's very own 24/7. That's channel 7.2 or 7-2. Another thing this weekend, you get to sleep in an extra hour this Sunday because it's daylight saving time. Saturday night, set your clocks back an hour. The time change will happen for cell phones and other connected devices at 2 a.m. Sunday morning. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Sophia Bliss.
Some things will just stay in the past, like those old playgrounds we used to play on. Slides that would burn you, structures that would maim you. It's a real throwback. A Boise company has a time travel tool, though, based on it. A brand new board game. We're getting a first look at surviving Camel's Back after the break. We want to hear from you about Camel's Back or really anything in our area. Story ideas, comments, whatever. Our number, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208 so we know it's for us. And we're going to get to some of these live at the end of the show. If there's anything I've learned about Boise in my time here, it's that the people of Boise, they truly care about what makes their community their community. There's a local company that encapsulates those feelings, the places, and the people that make Boise, Boise. And I'm sure you've seen stickers from Boise OG. It's a local company that is here to preserve, poke fun at, and celebrate the things, people, and businesses that make our city of trees so great. The next step in all of that, a fantastic game to capture it all. And I could tell you about the complex, really interesting structure behind me, but how about we hear from a man that has lived it, Boise OG creator Kelly Knopp.
That's what I refer to as the Thunderdome. That was the original playground at Camel's Back Park.
Is that a place you went as a kid or something?
Absolutely, yeah. That was a place where people burned themselves on slides, fell downstairs. I mean, it was an amazing, amazing playground.
So when we talk about the board game, Surviving Camel's Back, survival was a real thing.
It was, for sure. Yep.
Okay, so the game itself, where did this idea come from?
So one of the first designs that we did at Boise OG was a sticker called I Survived Camel's Back. And everyone that I talk to that has that sticker or the shirt has to tell me a story of what happened to them at Camel's Back. And it is pretty insane, from like broken femurs to knocked out teeth. I heard someone got stuck in the slide backwards and the fire department had to actually like grease them up to like push them through the slide. So I just kept hearing all of these stories and this huge community of people that remember Camel's Back as it was. And it was something that just had to happen.
You're moving around, you got some obstacles.
Yeah, you got the classic dog poop that we've all stepped in at Camel's Back Park. Yeah. You navigate around volleyballs, footballs, there's a North Junior High rocket, slackliners, mountain bikers. This thing is full of treacherous hazards. These are what we're calling Youchies, and every time you run into an obstacle or get hurt, you collect one of these. And the point is who can get through the whole entire park with the least amount of these. And so you'll also draw cards, which could either add to your Youchies or you get rid of some. You can switch spots, which we call kind of like commandeering someone else's picnic spot, or you lose your identity if you lost your wallet and someone found it. Oh, yeah. So there's all sorts of ways that you can sort of choose and strategize through the park. There's a lot of people getting caught in the park after dark, so we have some Boise Police Department cards in here. Goat heads is always a big thing for the mountain bikers. Aggressive trail Karens. So this might be someone that's just like way too much into the rules and etiquette of the trail. So this one is just cut your losses and run. There's urine on this slide, which I know isn't an amazing topic to talk about, but in my day, you'd send someone down first that maybe had not been there to make sure there wasn't anything in the slide.
So all of this is from lived experience. Yeah, I mean, that to me is what makes it cool. It's Boise OG.
Yep.
When you look around the board, I mean, what memories come to mind?
You know, we have what we call suspicious teenagers, and that was definitely me. I went to North Junior High, and you'd come to Camel's Back to do more nefarious things, whether it was an after-school fight or to share a cigarette with 6 of your friends. So I think that one sticks out a lot. There's the drum circle guy, the hacky sack player, the gal trying to pull off yoga and with all this going on. So a lot of this is from memory.
All right, so I know the question is, where can I get a copy of the game Surviving Camel's Back? Well, the launch party is actually going on right now until 8 p.m. at the Lost Grove in Hyde Park. Great brewery with beer, food, and yes, they've got the game on hand there. And a lot of fun details on the board and in the cards that you'll just have to go check out in person. You can also get it on the Boise OG website. We will link to this in our story at ktvb.com, but let us know what you think. Also, a little teaser for you, they are going to have some what I would call advanced cards. So this game is for ages 6+, but Kelly was telling us that they want to do an expansion that would kind of just be cards and ideas for adults, for an adult game night. So we'll keep you posted on their progress. But again, Surviving Camel's Back, available now. All right, 208 returns after this. For 75 years, the wrong person has been holding the record for largest bass. After the break, we're hearing the legend of the lady who actually landed it. And it's almost the end of the week here on the 208. Still time, though, to get your comments in. You can send them our way. 208-321-5614. Please include your name and hashtag the 208. We're going to read these live in a few minutes.
Well, kind of frozen in place as you take a look at the ice there. And something else that'll be kind of in place for tonight will be the fog. There is a fog advisory that you can see right along through here. And that's because we're expecting some pretty dense fog in Malheur County, up here toward Cascade, down along the interstate, almost toward Twin Falls, okay, as you look at some of this for tonight. Visibility so far, which I'll be watching all evening. You can join me at 6 and at 10. And of course, we'll be taking a look at what's happening to your community. Right now in Caldwell and Napa, it's down to 3 miles. That looks bad, but there's still visibility there. It's 10 miles in Boise, so it hasn't begun there. 5 miles in Ontario. And of course, not expected as much, especially toward Twin Falls, out here in Jerome, Haley, where you can see 10-mile visibility, and the same thing for McCall. So let's talk about the rain. Quite a bit of rain that has been received in the past 4 months. In fact, we're above average. If you think about the month of August, did you realize we had this much rain in the month of August? This last August, yeah. They were above average by 2.34. Wow, and all of this occurred in just 3 days, this rain. Now, when you look at September, that's the amount that was received, a little bit more of the average, but we were just above average by just a very small amount. Then when you look at October, this is how much rain we received, and we're above average by almost a half an inch. So far, here in November, this is how much we've received. This is how much we have to go if we're going to reach the average for the month of November, and it's possible because we could still see a couple of large storms that could be coming through for the weekend and the first part of next week. In fact, all of that rain that we're talking about in the last 4 months occurred basically in 7 days. 7 fairly good-sized rain events, ranging from anywhere from just above a quarter of an inch to a half an inch to over an inch of rain sometimes. So we've been getting some big storms here. Boise with up to 61 so far with the sun outside. Looks kind of fun there as we look at the amount of rain that's coming in for tonight as well as tomorrow. Well, out along the west coast, they're really getting it, but it's going to weaken as it moves in toward Boise. Now, let me give you what we're looking at here. We were talking earlier about quite a bit of rain here toward the Boise area. Some spots could still receive a quarter of an inch to a half an inch of rain. But as I get in here a little bit closer for tonight, there's no rain, but let me show you the storm coming into the area. It's dry throughout most of southern Idaho, and right out here, this is the storm system coming in. And at this point, it's a pretty good sized storm system. Now, there's 2 ways that this could go. As it comes in, it could provide us with the rain that we've been talking about, but from the southwest, we could also be seeing more of a rain shadow effect over the Owyhees, which means quite a bit of the valley dries out with some of that rain, and that's why it could be lighter, or at least less than a quarter of an inch. So as we look at the temperatures, this is Magic Valley for tomorrow, up around 60. Actually a pretty nice day, but you still have a chance of some showers. Over here to the western mountains and the central mountains, upper 40s to 50 degrees. Down here in valley locations, look for some rain, actually developing more toward the afternoon now. Boise tomorrow at 59, Meridian with 57 degrees, but there could still be some showers kind of starting as we look at the early morning hours. So here's your 7-day forecast. Don't forget the time change. You won't forget the rain. It'll be off and on at least through next Tuesday. And then we dry out. We get mighty cold. Temperatures down in the 30s, highs in lower 40s, or at least cold. Okay. And that's our forecast.
Thank you, Rick. Well, catch and release. It's common language on the river or lake, really for anyone who drops their line in the water, but it wasn't too popular until the 1970s. It was more of a catch and fry culture for just about any angler. State of Idaho has kept a close eye on the state's biggest anglers and holds their names in an official record book. But One Angler podcast says we've been giving credit for the largemouth bass title to the wrong person. 75 years later, the Big Bass Podcast and Idaho Fish and Game, they set the record straight. Here's Andrew Bartline.
The pastime's popular population. It's written right in the name, Fisher Man. And the best all have their names etched.
To add them to the state record list.
Broken down by species.
Large trophy-sized fish.
Matt Koenig.
Attempt to be documented in any kind of official way.
He keeps the books going forward, but looking back, there's some questionable claims.
It's just kind of a lot of mystery surrounding some of those older records that we don't know a lot about.
Including a fisherman, maybe best described with a gender-neutral term.
It was actually registered under her husband's name, Mr. W.M. Taylor.
A 10-pound, 15-ounce largemouth bass. A record Taylor's yet to release.
Are documenting large fish that have been caught around the state.
A record you won't find in this book. Ken Duke did the digging himself.
And so that intrigued me. I wanted to find out a little bit more about it, or really what I wanted to find out was whether or not I could find anything more about it. And I learned that her name is Mary Alice Hurt Taylor, and that she and her husband got married around the turn of the last century and moved from Missouri to Spokane in the early 1920s.
Ken also found magazine clippings to give the official dates and the competition, verifying the 75-year-old catch, but also uncovering a seemingly unrelated release.
Mary Alice Hurt Turner's brother was killed. He was a bank president, and he was killed in a bank robbery attempt, kind of the lookout guy. The lookout guy was caught, imprisoned for life, but he escaped. And 11 years after his escape, he was recaptured. She and her sisters, all brothers of the man who was killed in the bank robbery attempt, they all said, let this guy go.
You think she was put in maybe a pretty good mood based on her accomplish out at the lake?
I tell you what, when you catch a fish that size, that'll put you in a good mood. I don't care what else may be going on in your life.
He got to be part of the catch and release era.
Yeah, he was an early catch and release beneficiary, no doubt about that.
The man who did kill Taylor's brother was convicted, and Ken says he was executed as well. To be clear, it was just the lookout guy she decided to let go. Fish and Game has recognized Mary Taylor's largemouth bass record since the 1960s, even though she caught it in 1948. But the details were few and far between, and Ken's work has filled in the gaps about the equipment used as well. Koenig and Fish and Game say that the rules are pretty strict to get an official record, but back in the day, it's possible people slipped through the cracks and embellished their catch. Fishermen would never, right? And we may now know that Mary Taylor is not one of those. Let's take a look at some of your comments now. A lot of you talking about this great board game. This person says, I grew up with the original Camel's Back, a generation before the game developer at least. I survived numerous times down the metal slides, no injuries. Good to hear the report, Sue. I know that you are lucky to make it out without injuries. This person says, I forgot about sending someone down the slide to clear the way. Great memories, unless you're the one going down the slide. This person says, what year did Camel's Back Park get rid of the old jungle slide and stairs? That's from Sean. Sean, that's a great question. I am trying my best to find an answer. If anyone at home has a for sure answer, we would love to know. Some people, based on my quick research, think it was there maybe as late as the 90s. So if someone knows, though, that would be fantastic. This person says, I actually rode a bicycle down the backside of Camel's Back on a dare in 1963. I survived. You can just tell it's pretty treacherous territory based on the game, so that's an impressive feat, that is for sure. And then this person says, how can there be more than one infinity? That's Rob. Rob talking about the great event tonight, 7:30 at Boise State. I am the wrong person to answer that, but I'll look into it. Also, remember, Tuesday the election, we got a whole slate of exciting election topics for you next week. But for now, enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next time.